It's okay. So let's talk about the locker room situation. So now, not only are you and your teammates being stomped by this second-rate male who is narcissistically claiming to be a female so he can get his photo ops and aggrandize himself, but you have to share a locker with him as well. So what the hell do you think's going on in his mind when he's stripping down next to these women, apart from the fact that he's extremely fortunate to be there, let's say? But no, seriously though, what do you think's going on with him? Like, how is he acting? How is he behaving? Does he have the good graces to at least look somewhat embarrassed? Does he go change somewhere where he can't be seen? Or is he right there out in the open flaunting his package, let's say?
He was in the open. Granted, in a corner, relatively, as if that's supposed to make anything better. It doesn't. But I'll kind of set the scene. First of all, swimming locker room is not necessarily a place of modesty. Locker rooms are uncomfortable in general for anyone, bar adding someone of the opposite sex into that space. But growing up a swimmer, you almost feel comfortable being vulnerable in that environment. These suits you put on, they're skin tight, so it takes about 15 minutes to really tuck and poke and prod yourself into these suits, 15 minutes of which you're fully exposed. But this locker room, it's also a place of buzzing and chatter. You get to see your friends from all over the country who you haven't seen all year. It's an exciting place. Lots of talking, lots of laughing. But I can't even tell you the dead silence in the room when all of a sudden, well, first it got silent. I turn around, unsure why it got so quiet so quick. I turn around, there's a 6'4", 22-year-old male dropping his clothes and is fully intact with an exposing male genitalia. So let me be clear. We were not forewarned we would be sharing this changing space. No one told us. No one asked for our consent. We did not.
So what did you think? What did you think in that situation? I mean, what went through your mind?
The first word that went through my mind was betrayal.
Yeah, right.
That's the first thought I had. The people who were supposed to be ensuring our privacy, protecting us, failed on every front and bare minimum did not tell us. So I immediately left the locker room. I immediately left and I went to one of the officials on the pool deck who, just one of the officials, and I went up to him and I said, I understand the guidelines for the meet, which was, at the time, it was only 12 months of hormone suppression. I said, I know that, but what are the guidelines for the locker room? And word for word, this is what he says. Oh, we actually got around this by making the locker rooms unisex. So I'm like, okay, unisex. Okay, so this means that any man could have walked into our locker room. Any man, not just a self-identifying woman. Any man, a coach, an official, I guess a parent if they could be on the pool deck.
A fan seeking opportunity?
And no one told us. That's why I say it felt like.
That's a nice touch. I like that. I really like the fact they didn't tell you.
Yeah.
That's real sweet of them.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I say it felt like betrayal. It felt like belittlement. Of course, it's awkward. It's embarrassing. It's uncomfortable. There are so many feelings.
Yeah, it didn't feel like betrayal, by the way. It 100% was betrayal.
Absolutely.
At the deepest possible level. And not only was it betrayal, it was conniving, cowardly, sneaking, subtle camouflage betrayal.
Absolutely.
Because they didn't have the goddamn good graces to come out and tell you.
Right.
They sprung it on you, so to speak. And so that is absolutely 100% unforgivable. And then to do that under the guise of making the locker rooms unisex, that's just that's just icing on the cake, man. It takes a real, what would you say, conniving, malevolent, underground genius to come up with something that's sneaky and pathetic.
Absolutely.
So, so that was quite the fun meet for all you female athletes, eh? You got stomped real nicely on the competitive front. You got to have such a good time in the locker room too, with this 6'4" narcissistic wannabe who's parading around not only his parts, but his virtue in this absolutely contemptible sense. And then, of course, if you object to it, you're now the bad guy. Let's talk about that a little bit. You were at San Francisco State University, right? So that's fun. don't go to universities because they're pretty damn pathological. So now you went there and you were invited to go there. So you're actually a guest, right? So in principle, they should treat you nicely since you're a guest and you're taking your time and energy to go talk to people. Who invited you and why? And what happened when you went there?
I was invited by the Leadership Institute, which is an organization that tries to advance, really they uphold the freedom of speech. They try to advance the conservative movement on college campuses. And so I spoke at a Turning Point event. I'll kind of fill you in step by step of what this looked like. I got there. I was supposed to meet the campus police department an hour and a half before the event. We were set to meet at this parking garage and then walk over to the event together. The police never showed up. And so I didn't think much of it. You know, there was still an hour and a half before, so I figured I could just walk over and I'm sure they would make their way over. We would talk about an exit strategy if something were to happen, which I thought I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew this was San Francisco. I knew this was a different environment, which almost excites me, not because I want controversy or because I'm looking for arguments, but because this is an opportunity to get in front of people who don't agree with me. I was more hopeful that they would come with somewhat of an open mind, to which they simply didn't. There were some civil.
Yeah, that was definitely naive. That was definitely naive. But you know, that's excusable and acceptable. While you were going to a university campus, did you think you were a conservative?
Sorry, did you say did they think or do I think?
No. Do you? Well, you know, you talked to Turning Point. That's Charlie Kirk's organization.
Right.
It's definitely a conservative organization. Did you have, before all of this, did you consider yourself a political creature? Did you have a political home or an affiliation?
I've always been politically in tune. I've always been pretty up to date and knowledgeable about the different issues we face and what that looks like. And typically my views do align conservative. That's not to say every view. I'm not someone who is going to feel like I have to lean a certain way because that's how I align. That's not me. But I like to be well-versed. I like to be knowledgeable about what's going on. And so I've always been in tune, shall we say, but by no means did I have any sort of political background or any sort of ulterior motive to where I wanted to be in the position that I'm in.
Right. So you weren't a political actor.
Oh, goodness, no.
Yeah, okay.
But always tried to be knowledgeable. Who's where, who's doing what. Always watch the news and things of that. But by no means did I feel equipped for the position I'm in. I still don't. I'm learning.
No, I bet.
I'm learning every day.
Okay, so back to SFU. You're there. The police who are supposed to help you don't show up. And so you're looking forward to this event. And so let's continue walking through the day's events.
So